never had courage. Well, not if you call courage running into a building that's on fire, pulling somebody out from a car, or running into the gunfire to rescue a fallen buddy, or protecting myself as my body is ravaged with a disease. But I'll go with the lowercase courage. Talk about that comes from the heart. You know what that is. You've been there. You know when people say to you, oh, you can't do this, but you go ahead and you do it anyway? So do I. And I've decided to live my courage. Courage is what moves us forward from one day to the next. We're not the same today that we were yesterday. I like to tell friends from my theater background that Stephen Sondheim never put a reprise in one of his musicals because the character is not the same at the end as he was in the beginning. And if I'm going to be able to do what I want to do in my career, I have to live my courage. So in the early 1980s, I approached Jack Merriam, the Curtis Center, which is on Independence Hall and Washington Square. Jack is a really interesting guy, and that building is the former home of Curtis Publishing that did Ladies' Home Journal, Saturday Evening Post, Jack and Jill. It also was the headquarters for ARA Services, now called Aramark. So I decided that I wanted to go and see Jack. And Jack is the guy that has his name on the theater on South Broad Street. And having meetings with Jack in his office in the former Fidelity Bank building was always an adventure. As you'd walk the narrow path, as he had papers piled up high on every surface. And there he was, sitting in his worn-out, threadbare, comfy chair, chomping on the butt of a cigar. Having meetings with Jack was always very interesting. Because when I would tell him that I had sent him a report and he had forgotten that report, he would get up, he'd brush off the cigar ash from his knit sweater vest, showing the holes that he had burned that day, walk right over to one of the piles and pull out the report that I had sent him. He knew exactly what he was doing. Jack liked me, but he didn't like Fidelity Bank because they were pressuring him to sell the building. And the bank wanted somebody else to handle the sale, but Jack hired me and my small group from Jackson Cross Company. But the sale dragged on. Year after year, we would make presentations to Jack, and he'd refuse. When are you going to give up on that? Asked my competitors and my colleagues and my family. And there was that thin line between giving up and having the courage to continue. You know, that deal took 3.5 years to close in 1984. But the commission on it was $625,000, which is about $1.5 million in today's market. That was enough money for me to pay off my mortgage, buy a car, and still have money left over. So I went on to sell about $250 million worth of real estate. But who knows what I would have done if I hadn't had the courage to stay with Jack. You know, I've never forgotten the experiences with Jack. As I went off to direct theater around the country, or when I started my own photography and video marketing business, and now as I start my new business, Spirited Granddad, at spiritedgranddad.com. Oh, Jack, with his grandfatherly, loving way, because he was partly a loving grandfather and partly Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life infamy. But with his loving grandfatherly way and his steadfast tenaciousness and even his knit sweater vests, they all live in me at this point. So I love Jack as I move forward. And does it take courage? Yeah, I guess it takes courage. You have courage like that too. And I just hope that I don't have to face that burning building or gunfire from an enemy. And when it comes time for me to leave this earth, I hope I have courage then too. Thank you. I'm Charlie Seymour, Jr.